The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 30.
Okay, so let's jump right into the courtroom scene, because the contrast between what a courtroom should be and what this one actually is sets up the whole narrative.
It really sets the stage.
So the scene opens in a county yamen, the government office, a setting that, represents absolute order.
The pinnacle of local authority.
Right. But immediately, we're thrown into chaos. There's a man named Leng kneeling before the magistrate, and he's accusing a man named Guotai of armed robbery.
Which is a huge deal.
Massive. And he claims, under oath, that he specifically overheard Guotai and another man, Li Siming, actively plotting this crime in a room.
And right away, the text invites us to look at the anatomy of a lie within a flawed system.
Yeah, because we get the real story pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. The text immediately provides us with the backstory through the defense of the other accused man, Li Siming. We find out exactly what's actually happening here.
It's so petty.
It is. This isn't a heroic citizen reporting a crime. It's the weaponization of the legal system for a completely personal grievance.
Because Li Siming explains to the magistrate that Linger used to live in his courtyard. He was a tenant, and honestly, a terrible one at that.
The worst kind.
Right. He owes back rent, he's completely behind on his payments, and on top of that, he keeps harassing his landlord for personal loans.
He asks repeatedly, he gets denied, and what's really fascinating here is the psychological escalation.
Yeah, how it just spirals.
Think about the power dynamics. A minor financial dispute, rent money, and a denied loan starts to fester. The resentment builds.
And he stews on it.
Right. And because Linger has no financial power or social standing, he decides to use the ultimate power available to a commoner.
The state.
Exactly. The destructive blind power of the state apparatus.
That's the part that gets under my skin.
Go.
By falsely accusing them of armed robbery, he's not just trying to inconvenience them or, get them a fine.
Not at all.
In this historical context, an armed robbery charge is a capital offense. Yeah. It's literally a matter of life and death.
He wants them gone.
He's literally trying to annihilate them over unpaid rent. He's pulling the pin on a legal grenade and tossing it right into their lives.
Exactly. And we also have to look at the specific target of his accusation. Gao Guotai isn't just a random guy off the street. He's a Shenhuan.
Right, a scholar who passed the state examinations.
Precisely. And being a Shenhuan was a very big deal. It meant you were officially part of the educated elite.
You had status.
You had status, you had certain legal protections, you were exempt from certain taxes and even corporal punishments. You were a pillar of local society.
So he's really aiming high.
He is. So for Langer, a lowly deadbeat tenant, to drag a Shenhuan into court on a capital charge is a massive subversion of the social order.
That's wild.
It shows how a lie, if inserted into the right bureaucratic slot, can completely bypass all those social protections.
And you'd think, okay, the magistrate, the judge who represents the emperor's wisdom, he's going to see through this immediately.
You would hope so.
Right. He's going to ask for the stolen goods, look for witnesses, demand hard evidence. But the text shows us something entirely different.
Very different.
The magistrate listens to Langer's accusation, listens to Li Siming's defense, realizes he can't immediately tell who is telling the truth, and his solution is, well, it's barbaric.
The magistrate decides to use a torture device called the Jia on all three men.
All three of them?
Yes, all of them. The Jia is a horrific wooden instrument designed specifically to squeeze and crush the shins and ankles.
It sounds agonizing.
It is. And the magistrate explicitly states his logic. He essentially says, well, since I can't tell who is lying, I'll use torture on everyone.
Whoa.
Whoever the torture reveals to be guilty, I'll punish. He assumes that physical pain is the ultimate, foolproof diagnostic tool to extract the truth.
I was reading this and I just had to stop. I was comparing it to an inverted, absolute nightmare version of Law and Order.
That's a good comparison.
In our modern minds, the justice system is about gathering external evidence. You find the fingerprints, you pull the security footage, you build a case.
Right, you investigate.
But here, instead of gathering evidence, the system just tortures everyone involved. The accuser, the landlord, and the scholar, until someone's physical endurance breaks and they just sign the paperwork to make the pain stop.
Exactly.
But wait, let me push back on this a bit. When we read this today, it's super easy to just label the magistrate a monster.
Yeah.
But does the text actually frame him as an evil villain? Or is he just a bureaucrat working the levers of a machine that was built this way?
That's the crucial question, and the text heavily leans toward the latter, which frankly makes it so much more terrifying.
Really? So he's just doing his job?
Yes. The magistrate is not presented as a cackling villain twisting his mustache. He's presented as a functionary doing his job according to the standard operating procedures of his time.
That is chilling.
The system demands a resolution, a closed case. It doesn't equate truth with factual reality.
What does it equate it with?
It equates truth with a signed confession. And the accepted method for getting that confession when there's an impasse is the jia.
So it's basically a perverse scientific method for them. You apply pressure, literally, and whatever pops out is labeled the truth.
Exactly. It highlights the absolute vulnerability of an innocent person, like Guotai, the scholar.
Right.
You can study the classics your whole life, but if you get caught in this machine, your innocence doesn't matter.
It's just about pain tolerance.
Exactly. If you can withstand having your shin bones crushed longer than the other guy, you're innocent. If you break first and scream that you did it just to stop the agonizing pain, you're guilty and you'll probably be executed.
It's a system that practically guarantees false confessions.
It's a total indictment of relying on process over actual investigation.
It's terrifying. And the scene plays out with incredible tension. The magistrate literally gives the order, put them all in the leg squeezers.
The tension is palpable.
The innocent scholar, the landlord, and the liar, they're all dragged down. The guards step forward at the wooden boards. The torture is mere seconds away from beginning.
And this is where everything changes.
Yes. This is exactly where the narrative aggressively shifts genres. Just as the physical violence is about to commence, a blinding, fierce, unnatural wind sweeps through the entire courtroom.
It's described as a strange, violent gale that completely blinds everyone in the yamen.
Out of nowhere.
Right. You can't see the person standing right next to you. It's a moment of total sensory disruption within the halls of state power.
Right. And when the wind suddenly stops and everyone opens their eyes and the dust settles, the magistrate looks down at his desk, his official desk of imperial judgment, and there's a piece of paper sitting right there.
It's just resting there.
And on this paper are written two bold characters.
Yeah.
Yuan Wang, which translates to injustice or wronged.
It's such a dramatic image.
And the magistrate is entirely spooked. He has no idea who wrote it, but he knows something inexplicable just happened right under his nose. So what does he do? He pauses the torture, he suspends the session, and has everyone locked up in the cells instead.
If we look closely at the mechanics of this moment, the implications are really profound.
How so?
It takes a literal act of supernatural intervention to pause the gears of bureaucratic violence. Think about that.
Wow, yeah.
Human justice, represented by the magistrate and his leg-crushing device, has completely failed. The system was about to mutilate an innocent scholar based on a petty, easily disprovable lie.
Just to close a file.
Right. Because human justice is blind in the worst possible way, divine or magical justice has to step in, physically disrupt the courtroom, and hit the emergency stop button.
It's the only thing that works.
The text is making a very loud statement here. The institutions built by men are fundamentally incapable of finding the truth on their own.
It's such a stark indictment of the system. The only thing that can stop the machine is literal magic. So we, the readers, find out immediately in the text that this wind was the work of our protagonist, the monk Jigong.
Yes, the Arhat himself.
He pointed his finger, summoned the wind, slapped the injustice paper on the desk, and then he just leaves.
Which is such a fascinating, almost frustrating character choice.
Frustrating is exactly the right word. I mean, hold on. He just leaves.
He walks right out.
An innocent guy is rotting in a cell, traumatized, knowing he was seconds away from having his leg shattered, and the magical monk just goes for a walk out of town.
It seems cold at first glance.
Why doesn't he just reveal himself? Stand in the courtroom, give a grand speech about Guotai's innocence, or, magically teleport the real robbers into the room right then and there.
It's a great point, and it speaks to how Jigong operates and how the narrative views the limitations of the legal system.
Okay, I'm listening.
Jigong knows that just saying he's innocent isn't enough for a bureaucratic machine.
It needs paper.
It needs bodies. It needs culprits. It needs a closed case file. If Jigong just magically frees Guotai without providing the real robbers, the magistrate still has an unsolved armed robbery and an angry higher-up to answer to.
Oh, right. The boss is still going to want answers.
Exactly. Guotai would never truly be safe. He'd just be a fugitive.
Ah, so the bureaucracy is like a hungry beast.
Yeah.
You can't just take its meal away. You have to feed it something else.
That's a perfect analogy. Jigong hits the pause button to prevent the immediate physical mutilation. But to permanently save the innocent man, he has to go out into the world, find the actual violent criminals operating in this region, and physically deliver them to the court.
So he's working within the system's rules, sort of?
He has to play by the system's rules of evidence, providing actual bodies, but he uses magical means to acquire them.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the long game. So he leaves the city entirely. He heads out the west gate with 2 companions, Feng Shan and Sulu.
Right, they're just walking along.
They're about 2 miles out of town on a dirt road. And here's where the setup for the next phase begins. As they're walking, Jigong suddenly points to the ground and says, "Hey, look, where did this silver come from?"
And it's not just a little bit of silver.
No, there is just a massive amount of loose silver lying right there in the dirt.
And his explanation to his companions is incredibly casual, almost comically so.
It's absurd.
He says, oh, this must be from some armed escorts who ran into bandits. The bandits took what they could carry, and this is just what was left over. Let's just pick it up. It's a bargain for us.
The bargain.
And his companions, without much critical thought, just start scooping all this wealth into their bags.
Okay, come on. I have to call out Jigong's logic here. It's way too convenient.
It is extremely convenient.
You're walking down a desolate dirt road during a famine year, and you just happen to find a small fortune in silver that bandits somehow dropped. Bandits don't drop silver. Is Jigong testing his friend's morality here? Or is he deliberately creating a scenario? Because carrying that much visible wealth on a historical road seems like painting a giant neon target on their backs.
Your instinct is spot on, and you've hit on the core strategy of this entire middle section of the narrative.
Okay, so it is a trap.
The silver is purely bait. The text wants us to understand that Jigong is always playing 3 moves ahead. Remember, he needs the actual robbers to feed to the bureaucratic machine back in the city.
Right.
He can't just wander the countryside asking, pardon me, are you a bandit?
Right. They don't exactly wear name tags.
Exactly. He has to draw them out.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He essentially weaponizes the appearance of extreme wealth.
He makes himself the target.
By having his companions visibly carry a massive, unnatural amount of heavy silver, he is transforming their little trio into the ultimate lure for the local criminal underworld.
It's brilliant.
He's manufacturing a crisis on the road to solve the courtroom dilemma back in the city. He's a walking honeypot.
It's brilliant, but it's so incredibly dangerous. Imagine the socioeconomics of traveling with hard currency back then.
It's very physically demanding.
There's no wire transfer, no credit cards. If you have wealth, it's physically on your person. And carrying heavy silver means you're moving slowly, you're tired, and you're hyper-vulnerable.
And that vulnerability is exactly what the underworld preys upon. The road in historical Chinese fiction, the Jianghu, the rivers and lakes, is a space entirely outside the order of the courtroom we just left.
It's the Wild West.
It's a space governed by predators.
And they're walking right into the den of the ultimate predators. They keep walking west, heavily burdened with all this silver. They arrive at a market town called Jinjiadu.
And they see the sign.
They walk down the road and they see a white wall with bold black writing. It's a massive advertisement for an inn. Meng family old inn, fodder and provisions fully available, safe lodging for traveling merchants.
Just safe lodging.
Right, quote-unquote safe.
Yeah.
So Jigong, lugging his bags of bait, stands outside the heavy wooden door and yells for them to open up.
And this is where the text does something really fascinating structurally.
Oh, how it tells the reader what's going on.
Yes, it doesn't let the reader guess what's going on. It explicitly breaks the fourth wall, in a sense, to give us the omniscient, horrific truth about this establishment before Jigong even steps inside.
It lays it all out.
The text tells us point blank, this is not a quaint roadside bed and breakfast. This inn is a murder trap.
A literal slaughterhouse for humans. When I read the description of their operation, my mind immediately went to the infamous H.H. Holmes murder castle in Chicago during the World's Fair, or, the story of Sweeney Todd.
Those are great analogies.
It's this deeply unsettling concept of a business where the public-facing service providing a bed or a hot meal is just a facade.
Just a way to get people in the door.
The primary product of the business is actually the robbery and murder of the clientele.
The H.H. Holmes analogy is perfect, because just like Holmes, the Meng family old inn uses architecture as a weapon, and they rely on the transience of their victim.
Right, people who won't be missed right away.
Exactly. The text details their methodology meticulously. The inn is run by 2 bosses, Meng Xixiang and Li Hu, along with 2 workers, Lu and Li.
So it's a whole crew.
A very organized crew. They specifically target solitary travelers or small groups who have heavy luggage or large bedrolls.
Like Jigong's crew.
Precisely. They use wine spiked with Meng Hanyao, a powerful knockout drug.
Oh, wow.
Once the victim is unconscious, they murder them, strip them of their wealth, and use a network of secret subterranean tunnels connected to the premium guest rooms to facilitate the killings and dispose of the bodies unseen.
It's the ultimate perversion of hospitality.
Mm.
I mean, an inn is supposed to be a sanctuary, right? A place of safety from the harshness and dangers of the road.
That's a fundamental trust.
But the Meng family old inn takes that deeply ingrained social trust and turns it into the very mechanism of destruction. The weary traveler's desire for rest, their need for a safe harbor, is exactly what gets them killed.
It's incredibly bleak.
And here comes Jigong, armed with his bags of bait silver, walking right up to the front door of this meat grinder.
The psychological tension here is fantastic because we know it's a trap, the innkeepers know it's a trap, and we strongly suspect Jigong knows it's a trap. But everyone is about to play a highly formalized game of manners.
So Jigong knocks. A worker answers from inside, peering through the crack, and asks what they want. Jigong says they need a room for the night, and the worker's immediate response is a flat denial.
He turns them away.
He says, "We are full, we have no rooms." Jigong pushes, saying, "Even a single room will do. We're exhausted." The worker insists, "We don't have any space at all."
Now, this initial rejection is an interesting detail. Why would a murder inn turn away potential victims?
Right. Isn't that bad for business?
It might be because there are 3 of them, which makes it slightly more complicated to murder them quietly than the solitary traveler.
That makes sense.
Or more likely, they just genuinely didn't assess their wealth yet through the closed door. They look like a monk and 2 tired guys. Not exactly prime targets.
Just some dusty travelers.
But Jigong knows exactly what buttons to push to activate their greed.
He sure does. Because as soon as he's rejected, Jigong doesn't just walk away. He raises his voice so it carries through the heavy door and rings out into the courtyard.
He makes sure everyone hears him.
And he announces to his companions, "I have a tremendous amount of silver here, and I simply cannot walk any further. What am I to do?"
It's the equivalent of flashing $1 million in cash in a dark alley.
Literally.
And the psychological pivot from the innkeepers is instantaneous. The text notes that the boss, Meng Sixshang, overhears this loud declaration of wealth.
His ears definitely perked up.
The worker runs to the boss, reports the heavy silver, and Meng Sixshang immediately scripts a lie for the worker to get them inside.
And the lie is so incredibly dark.
It really is.
The boss tells the worker, "Go back out there and tell them this. Tell them our boss is a deeply charitable, benevolent man.
Benevolent, right?
Tell them, we know it's a famine year, times are tough, and we are worried that if 3 travelers keep walking in the dark with all that silver, they might run into thieves.
The irony is so thick.
They could lose their money, or worse, lose their lives. So out of the goodness of our hearts, we will clear a premium room for them, just to keep them safe."
Let's really analyze the sheer darkness of that irony. The innkeepers are adopting the language of extreme charity and paternal protection.
It's twisted.
We want to protect you from thieves. We want to save your lives. They are using the threat of hypothetical danger on the road to lure the victims directly into the epicenter of actual guaranteed danger.
It's textbook gaslighting. They're making the victims feel gratitude toward their future murderers.
Exactly.
They want Jigong to thank them for the privilege of being locked in the slaughterhouse. It's sickeningly clever.
It's a masterclass in predatory manipulation. It lowers the victim's defenses completely because it simulates a rescue.
So the worker goes back, opens the door wide, and feeds Jigong this exact scripted line. "Hey, you didn't leave, did you? Our boss is so worried about your silver, he wants to protect you. Come on in."
And Jigong.
Jigong just plays right along, perfectly matching their fake sincerity. He says, "Oh, you're worried about us losing our silver. What a relief. Great, lead the way."
As they walk in, the text gives us a very specific layout of the inn's architecture, which becomes crucial for the physical comedy and the tension that happens later that night.
Yeah, the layout is super important.
There's a screen wall facing the entrance to block the view from the street. The counter and the boss's office are on the east side. The kitchen is on the west.
Standard layout.
There are rows of standard rooms on the east and west, and then there are the premium upper rooms directly to the north, which is where they direct the wealthy targets.
Because that's where the trap is?
Exactly.
But before they even get to the room, before they even unpack, Jigong establishes dominance. He stops dead in his tracks in the middle of the courtyard.
This part is so good.
He just stands there, sniffing the air dramatically. He turns to the worker and asks, "What is that smell in this courtyard?"
And the worker has no idea what he means.
The worker is confused and says, "What smell? I don't smell anything." And Jigong, with a totally straight face, looks around and says, "It smells a little bit like thieves."
You can just imagine the worker's heart instantly dropping into his stomach.
Totally sinking.
The absolute audacity of Jigong. He's standing in the middle of a literal den of thieves, completely surrounded by seasoned murderers, and he casually comments on the thief's smell.
I love this moment so much. It's like he's taunting them.
He absolutely is. The worker is terrified but tries to brush it off, forcing a laugh and saying, "Oh, don't joke around, monk. There are no thieves here. Just go to the north upper rooms."
And Jigong agrees, but he specifically notes the condition of the room. He says the upper rooms are great because they are cool and breezy, open on all 8 sides.
Kind of an insult.
The worker points out that the windows don't even have paper pasted over them yet, which implies it's a bit dilapidated or exposed. So they go into the west inner room of this northern suite.
And his friends are done.
His 2 companions, Feng Shun and Su Lu, are absolutely exhausted. They drop the heavy silver and just slump down. The worker brings in water and tea, playing the good host, and asks what they want to eat.
And Jigong orders a lot.
Jigong doesn't hold back. He orders an absolute feast. 4 dishes, fried, steamed, boiled, roasted, and 2 pots of wine.
His companions don't want any, though.
Right, they say they are too tired to drink and just want to sleep. Jigong says, "Fine, if you won't drink, I will."
And this is where we get to one of the most brilliant and tense linguistic showdowns in the entire text.
Amazing.
It's a scene that operates entirely on subtext, code, and psychological dominance. The worker turns to leave to get the order, and Jigong calls out his drink order using very specific, highly dangerous phrasing.
Right. Jigong yells out, "Bring me 2 pots of white liquor," and make it, "Hey, Ademizi."
And the worker stops cold.
He freezes. He's absolutely terrified. The text tells us the worker realizes instantly that this monk is speaking Jianghu He Hua underworld slang, or black talk.
The worker knows he's made.
The worker's internal monologue is basically, "Oh no, this monk is a professional. He's an insider."
Let's break down the psychology and the cultural context of this moment. In historical Chinese fiction, Jianghu slang isn't just about sounding cool, it's a shibboleth.
A shibboleth, right, like a password.
Exactly. It's a secret code used by criminals, wanderers, and martial artists to identify each other and communicate safely in front of outsiders. It's an intricate language of survival.
So it's like an undercover cop scenario, but entirely flipped.
How do you mean?
Well, the worker believes he's dealing with a naive mark, a sheep waiting to be sheared. But suddenly the sheep looks him dead in the eye and speaks the fluent language of the wolves.
That's a great way to put it.
The cognitive dissonance for the worker must be staggering.
Exactly. And the specific phrase Jigong uses, hey de mizi, roughly translates within this specific underworld context to asking for wine heavily laced with knockout drugs.
So he's ordering the poison.
He's literally ordering the poison they plan to use on him, using their own secret code.
I am absolutely fascinated by this linguistic game of chicken. It's one thing to know the slang, but how does Jigong handle it when the worker inevitably tries to play dumb?
Because the worker has to test him.
Because the worker realizes his cover might be blown, and he needs to test if the monk actually knows what he's saying, or if he just, parroted something he heard.
Right. Did you just overhear it somewhere?
So the worker turns around, plays innocent, and says, "Monk, I'm just a simple worker. What does He Dimizi mean?"
This is where Jigong completely dismantles the worker's reality. It is an aggressive, comedic, and brilliant form of gaslighting.
So funny.
When the worker asks what the slang means, Jigong doesn't explain it. Instead, he immediately escalates to threats of physical violence to completely disorient the guy.
He just yells at him.
He glares at him and says, "Are you going to be reasonable or not? If you're unreasonable, I'm going to slap you right across the face."
The worker must be so confused.
Completely bewildered, he's probably fearing for his life from this crazy monk.
Yeah.
He stammers, "Wait, what? How am I being unreasonable?"
And Jigong hits him with the ultimate reversal. He points at the worker and says, "You just said He de mizi, and now you're asking me what it means.
It's so good.
I should be asking you what it means since you're the one who just said it."
It is incredibly disorienting for the worker. Think about the mental gymnastics he's being forced to do.
His brain is breaking.
Jigong is taking the words out of his own mouth, placing them in the worker's mouth, and then fiercely demanding the worker explain them.
The worker doesn't know what to do.
The worker thinks about it and essentially short circuits.
Yeah.
He thinks, wait, his logic is kind of sound? I did just say it out loud when I asked him what it meant. He just trapped me in a loop.
It's hilarious. The worker is entirely off guard. He's scrambling to maintain the inn's facade of being a normal, legitimate business. So he retreats and lies.
He makes up an excuse.
He says, oh, right. When I said, hey, the me Z, I just meant I was going to get you some really good, strong wine.
And Jigong accepts it.
And Jigong just smiles, completely satisfied that he won the psychological battle, and says, exactly, I also want good wine. Go get it.
It's a brilliant sequence because before Jigong even touches their physical traps, before swords are drawn or poison is poured, he is systematically dismantling their psychological defenses.
He's inside their heads.
He's letting them know subconsciously that they are not in control of this situation. He is dominating the power dynamic through sheer linguistic confusion. He's invading their safe space.
And that verbal sparring seamlessly transitions into the actual physical threat, the delivery of the poison wine.
The stakes go up.
This entire sequence is a study in how Jigong weaponizes the sacred customs of hospitality against the hosts who are actively trying to pervert those same customs.
Exactly. Let's look at the mechanics of the drinking game.
Okay.
The worker, whose surname is Lu, brings the food and the wine, and Jigong starts inspecting the wine pot incredibly closely, turning it over in his hand.
You get a big show of it.
Right. He looks up at Lu and asks completely out of the blue, what is your surname? Is it Lu?
And Lu is spooked.
Lu is taken aback because Jigong hasn't been told his name. Jigong somehow magically knows it.
And Jigong uses that magical insight to force an intimacy that the worker desperately wants to avoid. Jigong pours a cup and says, you know, you seem like a very amiable person.
Is setting the trap.
We clearly have destiny or fate between us since we hit it off immediately and I knew your name.
Yeah.
Come, you must sit down and drink a cup of wine with me.
He's invoking the deep cultural mandate of shared food and drink. In Chinese culture, sharing a drink is a profound sign of mutual trust and respect.
You can't just say no.
To refuse a toast from a guest who is offering you face is a significant breach of etiquette. Jigong is trapping Lu in the rules of hospitality.
But worker Lu knows that wine is heavily laced with menghaniao. It has enough drugs in it to knock out an ox. So he frantically refuses.
He panics.
He backs away and says, I can't. I don't drink at all. Even the smell of it makes me lose consciousness.
And Jigong doesn't let up.
Jigong pushes harder, holding out the cup. Just one cup. For destiny. Lu tries to use corporate policy as a shield. He says, if the boss catches me drinking with a guest, he'll fire me tomorrow.
Notice Jigong's master countermove here. He doesn't beg. He immediately adopts a posture of deep offended suspicion.
He acts insulted.
He puts the cup down, glares at Lu, and says, well, if you won't drink the very wine you just served me, it makes me highly suspicious.
Calling him out.
It's almost as if there is something put into this wine. If you won't drink it to prove it's safe, then I certainly won't drink it either.
He has backed worker Lu into an impossible corner. Think about Lu's options.
He doesn't have any good ones.
If Lu drinks, he drugs himself, falls unconscious, and fails his job. If he refuses, the monk won't drink, the monk stays awake, and the entire clean, quiet assassination plot falls apart.
And that's their whole system.
The whole business model of the inn hinges on the victim drinking that wine.
So Lu has to pivot. He realizes he's outmatched verbally. He takes the spiked wine back out to the main office and reports to the boss, Meng Sixong.
Getting management involved.
He says, this monk is too sharp, he's suspicious, he absolutely won't drink unless I drink first to prove it's safe.
So they devise a new strategy to trick the monk into a false sense of security. The boss gives Lu a fresh pot of perfectly clean, unadulterated wine.
The real stuff.
Lu warms it up to make it appealing and brings it back to the room. He says, Monk, it's really not our rule to drink with guests, but since you insist on destiny, I will drink with you. Here is some fresh, warm wine.
And here is the aha moment in the text that is just so incredibly satisfying to read.
I love this part.
Jigong takes the clean pot of wine, teats his head back, and downs the entire thing in one go. Just guzzles it.
Thirsty guy.
But then, and the text implies this is done through either supernatural sleight of hand or sheer magic, he produces the original, heavily drugged pot of wine that Lu had taken away.
He still has it.
And hands it right to worker Lu. He says, all right, I drank my pot, now you drink this one.
It's a stunning reversal. Jigong drank the safe wine to satisfy his own thirst, but he magically retained the poisoned chalice to force the issue with the worker.
It's brilliant.
Worker Liu looks at the pot and realizes he has been completely outmaneuvered. He's holding his own poison. He refuses again, gets genuinely angry, and storms out of the room.
He just bails.
And Jigong just casually calls after him, well, if you won't drink, I won't drink either. Drinking alone is no fun. He casually eats his meal, clears the table, closes the door, and peacefully goes to sleep.
He just goes to sleep. Let's pause and appreciate that.
It's crazy.
He is fully aware that he is in a house of seasoned murderers who are actively trying to kill him, and he just takes a nap.
How do you sleep in a murder castle?
Because this sequence isn't just about avoiding poison, it's about Jigong utterly dominating the situation.
Asserting dominance.
He is, to put it bluntly, playing with his food. He has exposed their linguistic codes, he has humiliated their staff, he has effortlessly bypassed their chemical weapons, and now he is resting, dictating the absolute terms of the engagement.
He's forcing their hand.
Exactly. By sleeping undrugged, he is forcing them to abandon their subtle, cowardly methods, the poison, and resort to direct physical confrontation on his timetable. He's stripping away their process.
And that confrontation happens at the third watch of the night, which is right around midnight.
The witching hour.
The innkeepers realize their elegant poison plot has completely failed. The victims are asleep, but they are undrugged. They know the monk is weird, but they still want that massive pile of silver.
The greed wins out.
So they have to use brute force. They have to go in with blades. And this is where the narrative shifts again from tense psychological thriller into something that resembles a lethal slapstick comedy.
Slapstick is exactly the right word. The physics of magic come into play here, and the author uses them deliberately to mock the frantic, deadly intent of the criminals.
It really does. Worker Lee takes a sharp knife and sneaks up to the front door of Jigong's room in the pitch black.
He's trying to be quiet.
He uses his blade to try and unlatch the door from the outside. He slips the blade in and carefully pries the top latch open. But as soon as the top opens, the bottom latch magically slides into place with a clack.
So frustrating.
So he curses quietly, crashes down, pries the bottom latch open, and the instant he pushes the door, the top latch slides back into place.
It's maddening for the assassin. He's trying to commit a stealthy murder, and the architecture is fighting him.
I was reading this, and I couldn't help but compare it to a classic Looney Tunes sequence like Wile E. Coyote or Charlie Chaplin sketch, but with lethal stakes.
Right, it's very cartoonish.
You have an armed, hardened murderer trying to break into a room, and the door itself is playing a practical joke on him. It's an infinitely repeating loop of frustration.
Up, down, up, down.
He pries the top, the bottom locks. He pries the bottom, the top locks. The magic here is almost playful. It strips the tension from the murder attempt and turns the terrifying assassin into a clown.
And that's a very profound literary choice. By making the assassin look ridiculous, the text strips the criminal underworld of its terrifying aura.
It totally demystifies them.
It shows that in the face of true spiritual power, human malice is just pathetic. And while Worker Lie is struggling with this looping door latch, he pokes a small hole in the paper window and looks inside.
And what does he see?
He sees Jigong and his two companions sleeping soundly, snoring so loud it's shaking the room. It's a further insult. They are so unbothered by the imminent threat of death that they are in a deep slumber.
So Worker Lie gives up on the front door. It's rigged. He remembers the inn's greatest asset, the secret underground tunnels.
The backup plan.
He goes to the adjacent room on the west side. The text details how he moves a table, rolls up a scroll painting on the wall, and reveals the hidden entrance to the subterranean passage that leads directly up into Jigong's room.
Very stealthy.
He steps into the dark tunnel, lowers his head to move forward, and he just stops. He can't move.
Just stop.
It's as if he has hit a solid, invisible wall. He is physically blocked by an unseen force.
Meanwhile, the boss, Li Hu, is waiting in the main office. He's getting impatient because Worker Li hasn't returned and there are no screams.
He's wondering what's taking so long.
So he sends Worker Liu to check. Liu sees the front door is still locked, so he goes to the eastern adjacent room, which also has a secret tunnel entrance.
Let me guess.
He moves the table, rolls up the painting, enters the eastern tunnel, and experiences the exact same thing. He walks forward in the dark and smacks right into an invisible barrier.
It's brilliant. The text is methodically stripping the criminals of every single home field advantage they possess.
Piece by piece.
Let's think about the architecture of the Meng family Old Inn. It was designed from the ground up to make these murderers invincible. The heavy locked doors, the poisoned wine, the secret subterranean tunnels allowing them to strike from nowhere. It's a machine built for slaughter.
A perfect machine.
And Jigong's spiritual power renders every single gear in that machine completely, utterly useless. The criminals are literally trapped in their own maze.
Which forces the ultimate escalation. The two bosses, Meng Sixshong and Li Hu, have been waiting in the office.
They've had enough.
Their workers have vanished into the walls, they realize something is deeply wrong, and their patience is gone. So they grab their heavy steel broadswords and charge the upper room themselves.
They abandon all stealth. It's just brute force now. Li Hu uses his heavy sword to pry and force the door open, breaking the magical latch loop.
He's not messing around anymore.
They enter the outer room and listen. They hear the thunderous snoring from the inner room. Li Hu uses his blade to carefully lift the curtain to the inner room.
He thinks he's got him.
He looks inside, and he sees Jigong sleeping on the brick bed, the Kang.
Ah.
But Jigong's position is absurd. His head is pointing south, dangling completely off the edge of the bed, stretching his neck out perfectly.
It's almost an invitation. It's an impossibly vulnerable position. He's practically offering his neck to the blade.
Exactly. Li Hu thinks to himself, "It is your destiny to die today, monk." He steps forward, grips his heavy steel broadsword with both hands, raises it high above his head, preparing to decapitate the sleeping monk with one massive strike.
And this is it.
And this is where the text executes a perfect pivot between sheer horror and comedy. Right as the blade is about to fall, the sleeping monk, whose head is dangling upside down, suddenly opens his eyes wide and smiles directly at Li Hu, baring his teeth.
Imagine the sheer visceral terror of that moment for Li Hu.
I would scream.
He believes he's executing an unconscious victim in the dead of night, and the victim's upside-down face suddenly snaps open and smiles at him.
It's like a jump scare.
The text says Li Hu is so violently startled by this that his heart almost stops and he nearly turns and runs away. He thinks he's hallucinating.
He must think it's a ghost.
He thinks, is the monk dreaming? Is he a demon? Why did he smile at me right when I was about to kill him?
The psychological whiplash is intense. He stands there frozen in confusion and fear for a long time. Eventually, his greed overrides his fear.
He really wants that silver.
He gathers his courage, convinces himself he must have imagined the smile in the dark, and steps forward again. He raises the heavy sword for the second time, brings it down with all his might, and Jigong simply lifts one single finger.
The magic finger.
He points at Li Hu and uses the Ding Shen Fall, the body-freezing magic. Instantly, Li Hu is locked in place, mid-swing.
Like a statue.
He cannot move a single muscle. His eyes can move, but his body is turned into a living, breathing statue holding a sword in the air.
Meng Sixshong, the other boss, is waiting outside the curtain. He peers in and sees Li Hu frozen like a statue with his sword in the air.
He must be so confused.
He panics, rushes into the room, reaches out to grab the sword from Li Hu's frozen hands, and the excerpt ends right there on a massive cliffhanger.
Such a good place to leave it.
But the text explicitly states in its final lines that the Arhat, referring to Jigong's divine enlightened status, is using his Buddhist magic to capture these specific thieves for one specific reason.
To save Guotai.
To save Guotai.
And there it is. The complete narrative loop. It connects the dots perfectly back to where we started.